Welcome everyone to the next episode of Purposely. I am so excited to introduce you to Jans Andre today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today. Appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. Now I have to spill the dirt. It's actually your birthday today, so happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes, 27 laps around the gorgeous sun and the beautiful Mother Earth.
Wow, I loved being 27. That was one of my favorite years. I'm born on the 27th of December, so 27 for me was like the best year of my life.
Well, you're 2 days after my mum. She's born on Christmas Day.
Oh, wow, poor thing. I commiserate with her. It sucks.
Always
It sucks. But anyway, so welcome. The first question I love to ask guests is, if you were at a barbecue and someone said, "G'day, mate, nice to meet you," what do you do? How do you explain to people what it is you do?
If I was at a barbecue and meeting someone for the first time, I would say, "Hey, I'm Jance, and I'm a personal chef and an athlete."
Cool. I love it. So we are going to talk today about your journey to finding kind of your purpose and how you ended up doing what you're doing, because you're an ironman, which I find mind-blowing, because that is, like, to me, like the absolute pinnacle of kind of triathletes and just all of that shit, like people who do Ironman. And I'd love for you to explain what it is an Ironman is. But you are also a vegan, so you do not eat meat. And so for some people to get their heads around doing an Ironman and not eating meat, like, that would just be mind-blowing for people. So let's talk about that to start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, an Ironman, for anybody listening that's not sure, an Ironman is the sport, three sports. So it's swim, ocean swim, bike, and run. And I compete in the full Ironman, which is, so it's a 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer cycle, and then a 42.2 kilometer run, which is a full marathon at the end of it. And
Holy
I've been doing,
shit.
yeah, it's quite a mammoth event. I mean, obviously me doing these things, I don't see it as being such a big deal because it's my life and it's what I'm in. I realize when somebody, from the outside goes, "Wow, that's insane." I'm just like, yeah, when you look at it and break it down, it's pretty huge.
It is, because people either do one or the other. They kind of do a 180 kilometer ride, or they do a marathon, or they do a swim. They don't do it all together. Like, there's triathletes and triathlons. So what's the difference between triathlons and an Ironman?
Well, it's the same thing. It's just Ironman is the biggest distance that is known. There is ultra Ironmans and there is bigger events, but this is the most well branded and well known in terms of triathlons.
Yeah, and so what led you down that path? When did you start competing as an Ironman? And let's go back to the very start and hear the story of Jans. Like, how the fuck do you decide, hey, I'm going to do an Ironman? Because for me, that's just like,
yeah. No, good question. So at the time, it's been like a few years now. At the time, I was competing I was doing CrossFit, so totally different sport. And I was dating this girl, and we like to compete together and do things and challenge ourselves. And she's like, "Hey, let's do an Ironman." And I was like, "Yeah, sweet, let's do it." I live by the philosophy of one body, one life. Like, why not try it all? You never know, how your body's going to react, or how, if you are going to enjoy something, if you don't just give it a crack. So I'm all for giving things a go. Tried a lot of things in my 27 years so far. And so I started, and then we broke up, and then I kind of kept going. I really enjoy it for the mental challenge more so than the physical. Obviously, I'm the fittest I've ever been in my life. But yeah, I love it for the mental aspect of it, of where it takes your brain. And when you're pushing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, there's a lot going on, and mentally as well. You've got to be really, really strong to stay in the game.
Wow. I can imagine. I can't imagine exercising for 10, 11 hours. Like, it's amazing what your body is capable of. And, you know, I've heard the saying that your mind gives up far before your body does. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly right. It's all, for me, it's all mental. And that's like anything in life, you know, think it, believe it, receive it is what I live by. So, you know, you can do anything you set your mind and your heart to. There's no limitations. The only limitations are the one that you set yourself. And so that's kind of what I live by in life, and try and teach and tell people, because, you know, just because you're here doesn't mean that you can't be there. Doesn't mean that, you know, the person that you look up to just got there overnight. Some people are born into it, genetics or, like, you know, wealth or things like that. But doesn't mean if you want something bad enough, you can go out and get it. So that's kind of how I live. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is out of reach.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You're talking my language. But have you always been this positive? Like, normally people who've kind of found this path have gone through some shit to get there. So has there been, what's your journey looked like? Like, if you look back on your childhood, and what's shaped you having these beliefs?
Yeah, totally. So I've, the camera's off there.
It's just frozen.
You there?
I am. Yep. There you are.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, cool. So I've grown up my whole life with just my mum and my sister, and my mum's done an amazing job at raising the both of us. However, you know, as a kid, I was always, even though my mum gave me more than a lot of kids, and you know, props to her for doing absolutely everything and bringing the both of us up. But I was always jealous of, you know, kids and friends who had two parents. Being a boy, you know, I kind of missing that male stuff in my life. So when I was, obviously, you know, from houses and all that kind of stuff, and you know, they had a dad, or had a big brother that would look after them, I kind of was missing it. And
I'm sorry. Hang on. Can I just stop you? Can I just stop you for a minute? It's just you're frozen, and we're getting a lot of feedback. You kind of can't hear what you're saying. So I'm just trying to let it catch up.
Can't hear.
Oh, there we go. You're back. The internet connection's not great.
Yeah, it's a rainy day here. They're tapping into it.
Are you on?
Can you hear me?
I can now. You're back. Are you on a wireless? Oh, you've just dropped out. I'm just going to stay here, and he should come back in. We won't stop the recording. We will just wing it. There he is. All right, you're back. You're back.
I'm not sure what's going on here. This is the first time this has happened, but
I don't know what's happened. It's all right. It's okay. We just go with it here. We don't stress out. Whatever. So you were just saying some really cool, interesting stuff, and we couldn't hear you. So you were talking about how you grew up pretty much. You had a single mum looking after you, and there was a bit of jealousy because you wanted that father figure, and you compared yourself to other kind of, you know, traditional nuclear families, and that was difficult. So
yeah, definitely. You know, I was, you know, more feminine than a lot of the kids. And I also grew up a child model as well. So that kind of threw another fuel to the fire, you know, being, you know, in magazines and all that kind of stuff. And I was obviously, more feminine than the rest of the boys. And school can generally be a really hard time for each other, but add more fuel to the fire of not being what's considered, normal and different. Then, yeah, I struggled quite a lot, with the feeling of not being accepted. So that kind of made me turn into being someone who would, try and feel accepted. So I would, get in trouble a lot to, gain the acceptance of my peers and try and be one of the boys. So yeah, I was always getting in trouble. Moving on to high school, same thing. I was on a TV show as part of my modeling, and I was actually dating a guy it was a girl who was a guy in real life. So I was on Summer Heights High, and I went to an all boys school. So of course that was even more like, I was getting called the names, and, it was just a horrible time, and, got beaten up, got bashed, got money extorted from me, like all of the things, was always getting suspended. And then it came to probably one of the meetings in the offices with my vice principal and my mum, and he said, look, there's not going to be a next time. I was in year 10 at the time. The next time, you'll be expelled, you'll be kicked out of the school. And I was working at McDonald's at the time, and I remember looking over at my mum, and she had tears, falling down her face, and she said to me in the car on the way home, that job that you have, you can make it full time if you want. And that kind of really hit me. And also, like, I didn't want to do that, and I also didn't want to keep disappointing my mum. So from that day, I did a full 180, and became house captain, got the leadership award. I always had the potential in me. I was always a really smart kid, straight A's, just mucked around because I felt like I needed to be accepted, because I cared what people thought. Once I dropped that barrier and stopped giving a shit what people think about me, I accessed my potential, and have never really looked back. Of course, I still like to, muck around and stuff like that. But I've got strong goals and strong drive, and nothing's going to get in my way just because you tell me or you say something about me. I really don't care what you think of me. But yeah, that's kind of my little story of growing up. And then went and studied property development straight out of school because I wanted to make a shitload of money. I had family, friends in the property, and that's pretty much all I wanted to do was make money and set myself up. Studied that for 6 months and really didn't enjoy it at all. It was really dry. It was really boring, and I hated it. I hated university, didn't like one bit of it. So I decided to take a break for 3 months and go overseas. Went overseas for the 3 months in the break, and then extended that to 6 months, then extended it to 12, 18, like kept 24, 30, kept on extending it. Lived overseas for quite some time. Went all over the world, most of the continents. Lived in Germany for 2 years, learnt German. And then kind of the real big turning point for me was I was in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Now, this sounds cliche, but I wasn't vegan at the time. We went out, slept in the desert, and it was 2 a.m. and I just woke up and decided to climb this massive sand dune that was behind our campsite. Don't know what got over me, and I was just like, yeah, I love a challenge, so let's climb it. And at the time I was still partying, drinking, like doing all that kind of stuff and having fun with my life. I was a traveler, I was living it, I was young, 19. So climbed this peak, and I felt like I was never going to reach the top. Physically, I was doing 2 steps forward and it felt like I was stepping back 3 steps. I don't know if you've ever walked in snow or sand, but it feels like you're never really getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the edge peaked over, and I was at the top of this massive peak in the middle of the desert in Africa. And all you could see was like the wind blowing off the mountains, off the peaks in front of you, like not a sound. You could literally hear a pin drop. And it was that point for me where I had an epiphany of I didn't want to just exist on this planet. Sure, I could, keep traveling and have fun. But for me, I felt like I had a greater purpose in life, and that was to give back to people. And whatever way it was, I wanted to, help people in whatever avenue that was going to be. And so, I came down from that mountain and, slowly made my way back to Australia and started a business. I remember the phone call. Actually, I called my mum and said, "Hey, like, I'm gonna come back and stop traveling and start a business." And so, yeah, that's kind of my journey to starting a whole bunch of different businesses, I could keep talking forever and ever. But do you have any questions so far?
No, it's all good. I love listening. It's a great story, and I think a lot of people resonate with that. The whole going to uni, hating it, feeling like, why the fuck am I studying this thing that I have absolutely no interest in? And then leaving, doing the whole traveling thing, and then trying to work out, well, what is my purpose? Who am I? What do I believe in? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? So a lot of the people I interview have a similar kind of trajectory where they start businesses and a lot of them fail. So let's talk about that. So you said that you've dabbled in lots of different businesses. So what was your first business?
Yeah.
And let's talk through some of the highs and lows of what it's like to start a business and for it to not work, or for you to realize, I don't even fucking like this.
Yeah. So I started a cold pressed juice company out of my home, and it was a lot of fucking work. Honestly, I didn't think it would be like that hard, but the amount of work that went into it just for such a small amount of product. It was a cold pressed juice company, and anyone who knows cold pressed juice, like, it takes a lot of time to prepare, especially on like a small commercial home kind of juicer. And yeah, I was like, obviously I stepped into the hospitality of and health space because I wanted to better people's healths and their lives and vitality. And yeah, the next step was to buy a huge juicer, like a big commercial one. I was going to drop, it was about 35K. And I had good friends at the time who were already doing quite well in that space. And I lost all drive for that and stopped doing that, and then stepped into doing, meal prepping for people out of my own home, and, providing them with all the macros and all that kind of stuff. And again, I was like, this is way too much work. Like, this is so boring. It was way too hard. And then I'm a festival junkie. Like, the reason why I love festivals is because, of the vibe there, really high frequency. Everyone's there to have fun. No one cares about work. Everyone's there everyone's there to have fun. And that's what I really, really loved about festivals. However, there was a huge gap in the market that I saw of good, healthy, like, food options at music festivals and markets. So decided, I was actually raw vegan at the time. So raw vegan is nothing that's cooked over, 42 degrees is still classified as raw. So you can dehydrate and do a lot of shit. And so we started a raw food truck. Actually got it. So my mum is my business partner, or was my business partner. We built it from scratch. Got some really, really epic, like, photos, and we had a mad time. We did that for 2 weeks of being fully raw before we knew that we had to change it, because vegan was enough, and for someone to come up and be like, oh, it's not cooked, or like, oh, it's cold, it was too far. Australia is not the climate for it. Maybe California or Mexico or somewhere would be more inclined to like that kind of stuff. So changed it to gourmet vegan food, street food, burgers, burritos, like dirty but healthy kind of, so that people would see it and be like, oh, I know that, like, that's a burger. But we'd still make everything from scratch, and make everything with color because people eat with their eyes, and very, very nutritious. So we did that for a year and a half. Huge festivals. And then we decide, because the guy who actually built it was a tradesman, he said to us that he'd built food trucks before, which was a lie. He actually hadn't. And the legalities around it, you have to put a certain amount of weight on it so that, because it was one that was being towed, it couldn't be too heavy. And when it was fully stacked with all of our produce and everything for the festivals, it was way overweight. And the car that I had could legally only tow 2.5 ton, and the trailer was weighing 3.8, 3.9 ton. Keep in mind, I never towed anything in my life before, so that was something I had to learn. You got to turn one way for the trailer to go the other way. It's hilarious. But I loved it. But yeah, it just got too dangerous for us to keep towing around because of the weight, especially traveling 5-6 hours, into the bush for some of these festivals and going on major highways and having trucks like close in on you. It was scary.
Wobbles.
Yeah, exactly. So we decided that we were going to set it up inside of like a massive warehouse and run a cafe out of there. So we did that. We set it up, spent 25-30 grand setting it all up, but we were subleasing off the guy who wasn't actually paying the main landlord. So everyone got evicted. We lost all of our money, ended up taking that guy to court, didn't win. And then we sold the food truck. Luckily, we regained some money from that. And then we're going to, buy someone's cafe and start out that way. And then I was like, what's the point in buying someone's cafe, buying their problems, buying the energy of that venue when we're going to change it all? Let's just set up our own and build it from scratch. It's going to cost the same amount of money. So we did that. We built like a barley shack inside of this place that we just wanted to be takeaway. Started out as like just takeaway with some tables and chairs, and then the vibe that we created was so sick that we had to build more space and change the whole menu to have it to be like a proper sit down, because no one wanted to fucking leave. Like people wanted to people just wanted to hang out, because we created an escape from and that was our goal, was to create an escape in a place where people could come and feel like they're at home and escape the city life and just enjoy good vibes and chats. And so that's what we did, and we extended that twice, almost 3 times in the time that we were there, so well that we were increasing our revenue and sales 20% at all of the time. And we almost sold it the week before COVID last year. And then we lost the sale, and the buyer fell away, and he was going to invest. He was going to buy it, and then he was going to invest and then open up more, and then we were going to do a supermarket, like all of this kind of stuff. And then COVID came, and we had to pivot and do takeaway. So Melbourne got hit pretty hard, as you would know. 9 months of hell and depressed people and all that kind of stuff. And I just lost the passion for the place, because it wasn't what we built. That wasn't what it was anymore. I stopped loving what I was doing, and I kept, we were on JobKeeper and all that kind of stuff. Kept thinking it was going to go back to how it was, but it came to a day that we were just like, we've got to cut ends here. We also had a landlord who wanted to not give us any rent relief at all and wanted back pay of all of the money and full rent the whole time. We sat through court mediation over Zoom for 5.5, 6 hours. And basically he just said, give me all my money or give us back the keys. We didn't do either of those. We kept trading, and then we finally, just packed up and left. Came up to the Gold Coast, and we're going to open up here. We took because we owned all of the equipment and stuff, and we started looking at venues up here, and they just wanted way too much money for what it was, especially with the current climate. And we kind of knew that especially with what's going on, it's too uncertain. And have a look now, like we're back in lockdown, like this was already expected. So we made a decision that we weren't going to open anything and we're going to start selling all of the equipment. And for me, that really hit me hard. You know, even though I'm really young, it was all I knew for the past, you know, years, like, is having a venue, having people come in. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, you know, I was like, this is all I know. And then off the back of a Facebook comment, you know, I kind of accepted that I wasn't doing that anymore. One of my friends commented on this thing of this lady asking who makes vegan cakes. And she was like, oh, Jansen. And then I commented, said, yeah, I do that. And then this other lady hit me up in messages saying, oh, what else do you offer? We actually just got rid of our personal chef. And I was like, oh, I've actually, you know, I've done that before years ago. And it's something I'm very capable of. And so I started doing that, and then word of mouth. And then I was like, okay, I gave it a good crack and started pumping on socials and stuff. And now I'm busier than ever and, you know, really loving it. I'm working less. I get to work one-on-one with clients that want to work with me. I get to educate them, which is, you know, that discovery that I had, you know, in Morocco, which was my purpose of educating and helping people. Now I get to do that one-on-one in a more personal environment, going into their homes, providing them with the macronutrient, the vitamin intake, the story of the dish and why I've included certain foods, you know, how the compounds of those work together to help increase, you know, vitality and the absorption within the bloodstream. And that's just growing really rapidly. And I'm having to now look at getting someone to work underneath me because the requests are very, very high. So coming from leaving Melbourne and then being hit with not opening another venue to where I am now, I'm stoked. I'm really happy. So yeah, a lot of information to take in. I like to talk a lot, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And just acceptance, you know, I always say acceptance is key. Of everything happens for you and not to you. So everything happens for a reason, you know, even though you can't see it at the time, there's always a reason for the things that are happening. And when you go through shit times, like, it doesn't rain forever. There's always a rainbow or flowers. Flowers can't grow without rain. You need to go through some shit to find the beauty. Excuse me.
I love it. So, what's been the biggest learning for you over the last 12 months? Because that's a pretty hard pill to swallow. I'm getting some feedback, but what's been the biggest learning going through all of that?
The biggest learning is just letting go and letting the universe take control, because at the end of the day, it's already set out. I believe, you know, your life is already determined and you just have to let it happen. What happens, happens. Focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. That's my main takeaway, is focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. Don't get caught up in things that are out of your reach, because you end up just being unhappy. And at the end of the day, happiness, I believe, is everyone's main goal, which is why I don't judge anybody. Because, you know, if somebody's doing something that I personally don't like, but they're happy doing it, cool, let them do it. I'm not going to nobody wants to be told what to do. Secondly, nobody wants to be told what they're doing is wrong. So I went through the phase of pushing my views on people, and it just turns people away and turns people off. So I just live by example and live my life, you know, to the highest of possibilities. And, you know, I let people come and ask me. And at the end of the day, you know, they come and ask for advice, or they say, hey, you've been doing this for so long, I've been watching you. How do I start? Or how can I do this? Rather than me saying, you need to do this, you must do this, you must do that. Just set the example and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's your life, it's their life. So everyone has a choice. And if that's what they're doing, then cool, let them be.
So can I ask a question? So when did you decide to stop eating meat, and why did you make that choice?
Yeah, so I've been plant-based for 7 years now. I actually, while I was in Africa, between I saw from me to 10 meters away, I saw a cow getting its head cut off and being slaughtered. Obviously, they don't have the infrastructure to hide, the mass slaughtering and killing of what they do as they do here in Australia. And for me, I'm an emotional being, and that really hit me hard. And from that day on, I stopped. I wasn't really eating a lot of meat and stuff before anyway. Went on the whole organic and lots of fruit and veg journey about 15 years ago when Mum came back from a retreat. Never really had much dairy either, but that was the turning point for me. And then obviously as the 7 years have gone on, I've learned a lot more, and it's just crazy how many products and things there are that have animal residue, and even the tires on cars and the tar in the road, it's just used everywhere, and I just don't see personally why.
Yeah. Absolutely. So a lot of I'm getting feedback again. A lot of people would be curious to know how you can do Ironmans and not eat meat. There's this fallacy that you need protein from meat. That's the only way that you can get protein. And looking at you, you're so fit and healthy. What do you have to say to those people who think that the only way that you can be strong and get your protein is through animal products?
Yeah, protein at the end of the day is a myth, and it's a marketing tool to sell more dairy. And at the end of the day, you don't need as much protein as you actually think. We're not babies. We're not doubling in size. We don't actually need a significant amount of protein. However, there is protein and more than enough in literally fruit, vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, and it's more bioavailable for your body to digest than it is animal protein. Animal protein, at the end of the day, when you're eating that, you're actually also taking on the trauma that the animal has gone through when they were slaughtered. And when you look at an animal, say you're eating a cow or a chicken, or you're eating a pig, not steak, pork, and what all these other names they give them, they're eating grass. That's how they're getting their protein. You're just getting it from a secondary source, as well as the trauma and the suffering that they've gone through. So why not go straight to the source and eat the plants, because that's what the animals are doing to survive, as opposed to eating the animal. And at the end of the day, all animals are just like us. I could say, why wouldn't you eat your dog? What's the difference between a dog and a cow? Just because we classify them as pets doesn't necessarily, you have a look at, places like China, they eat dogs. There's no difference between a dog and a cow or any sort of animal. At the end of the day, we are animals as well. All animals have feelings, they have emotions, they feel things just like us, like we do. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And as I said, I've been plant-based for 7 years, and there's some of the strongest people that are setting world records in the world are plant-based.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I just have to say that your mum's done such an amazing job. I have a son, and your mum must be the most amazing woman, because you are such an amazing young man. And, kudos to her. Whatever she did good. I love watching your social media content, on Instagram. The reason someone introduced me to you, and they said you have to check out this guy. And she's a vegan as well, so she loves you. She's in Tasmania. But just your positivity and your positive vibes, and just telling people to, stop caring about what other people think and all this bullshit, and just focus on yourself. And that's, being present and being happy in the moment. I'm 44, and I didn't actually start working this shit out until, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I feel like all of this stuff and learning, when I was your age, just wasn't really around. It was kind of, it was seen as a bit, what's the word I'm trying to look for? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know.
Tony Robbins, I remember Tony Robbins when I was your age. I mean, he's been around for years. That was for freaks who who had no life, and that they were weirdos. If you went to a Tony Robbins event or something, like, people would be like, oh, Tony Robbins, like, what's wrong with you? But we've now come so far where we understand the power of personal development. So if you could give a message to all those young people out there who are still, going out and spending all their money on the weekends at nightclubs, smashing bargs and drinking their feelings, what would be the message that you would give to them?
At the end of the day, these people are going to come around to it in their own time. However, the message that I would give is it's hard, because a lot of, when you're surrounded in an environment, where people are doing these things and living up to society's, pressures and statuses, and going out drinking, living by the weekends, getting a big job, doing all this kind of stuff, it's hard. Spend a lot of time, if you can, with yourself and figure out what it is. Like, it's really hard to say this to a young person who's, but my advice, well, not my advice, but the reason why I'm like this, and is, I reckon, partly because of my upbringing, but also partly because I traveled and I saw the world and just realized that we are just literally an ant, a spectrum in this whole world. It is crazy. Traveling gave me so much perspective. And at the end of the day, also, like, go out and do whatever you want, because, to an extent, like, you could walk out tomorrow and, it's just as dangerous walking outside as it is driving a car. Like, there's risk everywhere. But you should just go out and do what it is that you want, and not fear anything. I think the greatest fear that a lot of people have is, the fear of failure. But, I say you can never really fail if you try. The only time that you're going to fail is if you don't try, because you're going to regret not trying. If it didn't work out the way that you planned, then you've learned a lesson. And the whole thing about life is, everyone on this planet, even though people that look like they've got it together, nobody knows what the hell they are doing. They may look like they've got everything together, but we're all here just working it out. Even me, I'm a human. I make mistakes. I have feelings. I have emotions, and it's totally normal. But yeah, just enjoy every single moment. And my advice would be to try and be as present as possible in whatever it is that you are doing. Like, right now, I'm really engaged in this conversation, and I'm not thinking about anything else. This is the most important moment, because it's happening right now, and it's never going to happen again. Yes, it may happen again, but this is happening now. So soak up what's happening right now, and always go into new conversations in life, and with don't be closed-minded. Have an open mind, have an open heart, because you never know what you could learn from somebody, or you never know what that conversation, how it could change your life, or what comes out of their mouth that causes you to say something that could be, a moment that changes your whole life. So have an open mind, have an open heart, and just give things a good crack, because life's too short. The days, and surround yourself. I always say, like, try and surround yourself with people that challenge you, motivate you, inspire you, and support you. Because at the end of the day, you become, the 5 people that you spend most time with. So choose them wisely. I'm very kind of cutthroat with who I choose to spend my time with, because at the end of the day, it's my life. It's my choice. I want to be surrounded by people, who are of the same frequency. I want to have friends that are going after their goals. I don't want to have, like, boring conversations. How's the weather? How's this? How's that? It's very hard to find people who hold all of those qualities. But when you do, hold on to those people. But that doesn't mean to say that, say you have your friend Joe who challenges you, but, he's, not really supportive or inspiring. Maybe you just, have him because he challenges you. don't necessarily cut those people out of your life, because it's really hard to find someone who has all 5 qualities. Otherwise you end up being alone. But just be conscious of who you exchange your energy with, because it's very precious and very finite.
Absolutely. I love it. Great advice there. Well, it's been amazing chatting to you. If people want to learn more about you and get in contact, maybe somebody's up on the Gold Coast and looking for a private chef to cook them delicious, vegan, amazing food. So hang on, that's a really good question. Do you cook, I shouldn't say normal food, that's inappropriate. Do you cook meat if people want you to cook meat, or are you purely a vegan chef? What's the go?
Yeah, I'm exclusively plant-based. So, and I once again, I provide all of the macronutrient, vitamin intake, nutritional content, and try and educate you as well. So at the moment I'm working from Byron to Brisbane. I've also got someone that's just about to start working underneath me in Melbourne, as the request has been pretty high. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm going to be going across the country with my business, and
it's really exciting. Well done.
Yeah.
And so we didn't talk about this, but you also wrote a book and you never launched it. So is the book going to be launched?
Yeah, so I set a time for myself. So it's going to be just editing it at the moment and adding more stuff. As you know, I wrote it 5 years ago. It's called Thrive Off My Plants. So it's an awakening guide to, a happy plant-based lifestyle and how to be conscious in modern society. Because I find, like the conversation that we've had, a lot of people are walking around aimlessly asleep and not aware of, their actions or how things impact them or how they can access their potential and be the best version of themselves possible. So it encompasses all of that, as well as my story and recipes and a whole bunch of different things. So I've said that it's going to be about 6 weeks or so from now until I self-publish it. I originally went to publishers and got rejected because the space apparently was too competitive for what I wanted to put out. So that kind of turned me down. But at that time I was just starting up a cafe. So I pushed it to the side and hadn't really looked at it until I finally had a lot of time on my hands after just my recent competition, and caught up with one of my friends who challenges me and who inspires me and motivates me and supports me. And he said, "What about that book?" And he was actually the one that pushed me to start my podcast. So yeah, and then I was like, "Yep, fine." I was just really hesitant to look at what I wrote. I was actually scared because it'd been 5 years ago. I was cringing at the thought of reading what I wrote, But if it didn't make you cringe reading it, then what have you done in the past 5 years? You haven't really grown and developed, and that's what life's about. And so I'm changing so much of it, and I'm like, oh my God, like I know way more information on that topic now, or like, I can't believe I wrote that. Like, and then in another 5 years, people always say, like, who do you look up to? I look up to myself in 5 years. I don't look up to anyone. In 5 years' time, I'm never going to get there. I'll keep looking up another 5 years. That's who I want to be, better than who I am today. That's it.
That's beautiful. I love it. So if people want to check you out, they can obviously find you on Insta, Plant Strong Yans. Yep. And you've also got a podcast. I haven't listened to any episodes, but I definitely would like to. So what's the podcast about, and where can people find that?
Yep. So you can find it on Apple iTunes, Spotify, all of the podcasting apps. It's called The Awoken Athlete. So basically I interview high profile athletes all around the world, as it's also a nutrition podcast too. So I interview doctors, nutritionists and plant medicinal companies, and basically, tell the stories of these athletes. And it's kind of also want to dig into like how they are, awake and conscious in modern society, as well as not just, hey, I'm blah and I'm a bodybuilder. Like, I also am really aware of like, certain things in life and am awake. And this is what the industry is actually really like. And just having some little deep insights into the minds and lives of these people, as well as, doctors that are plant-based and have all of this information that can better us. So yeah, it's just another education platform, and I've really been enjoying it because I've learned so much as well. And if I didn't have a podcast, I wouldn't be able to have these conversations with these certain people. At the moment you say, you want to be on my podcast, a lot of people just open up, as you would know, and share their stories. And it's a great platform to get information out and to learn about people and certain things and topics. I'm sure you'd be feeling the exact same. Hey.
I am, and I love it because I get to meet awesome people, and I learn something every single day talking to people like you, and it actually inspires me, and I want to share that with my community. I think it's really important to tell these stories. I love hearing people's stories, and my nana has this saying. I just spoke to her on the phone before I spoke to you today. She's 94, and she taught me that no matter, the person that you meet, whether they're a CEO or a homeless person, everyone's got a story. And if you just listen, you will learn something new every day. And you kind of said that before, and it really resonated with me. So thank you. And thanks for your time and generously sharing your awesome story with our listeners. And I wish you all the best. And I can't wait to see your book when it comes out. I'm sure it's going to be a rip-snorting success. And I hope that you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you. It was a beautiful conversation. I always love having a chat to like-minded people, and hopefully there was some good takeaways from whoever's going to be listening to this or whoever already was. And thanks so much, and enjoy your day too.
Thank you. Just stay on after I press end.